All right, your final lesson of Unit 2, your final lesson of the week, of week 1 for math. So we are going to find equations. Our learning goals, we're going to use the roots, which is another word for zeros or solutions, and a point to find a quadratic equation. Again, most of this stuff should be a review from grade 10 academic. If not, that's why we're going over it again. For our first example, find the equation of the quadratic function that has roots of 2 and 6 and passes through the point 5, 2. If you are given the roots, again, another word for zeros or solutions, that means you should start with factored form as a roadmap. So let's start with this, y equals, and if you remember factored form, x minus r, x minus s. It doesn't matter what letters you use, they're just placeholders. And I told you that you have solutions, roots, x-intercepts of 2 and 6. That's like your r and your s. So x minus 2, x minus 6. And the only thing you are missing is the a value. That's almost always what you're missing and what you have to find. So there is another piece of information that I gave you, and it's this coordinate, which is x and y, and you have an x and y in that equation. So we can replace y with 2 and replace x with 5. And then just from there, do the math. 5 minus 2 is 3. 5 minus 6 is negative 1. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3a. I just wrote the negative 3, the coefficient on the front. It's how we're used to seeing it, and there's nothing wrong with writing a times negative 3, but sometimes people make mistakes when they see it like that. Divide both sides by negative 3. A equals negative 2/3. For sure, don't make that a decimal. We're going to keep that as a fraction. And once you're there, don't forget you're not done. We found A, which was basically what we had to find, or the hard part, but it's asking you for the whole equation. So y equals, you got to put it all together, negative 2/3, x minus 2, x minus 6. And there's your final equation. Now, I didn't tell you for this example what form to use, so it makes sense for ease to just use factored form. If it did by chance say what's the equation in standard form, hopefully you remember how to get to standard form, you would have to FOIL and distribute that. If it asked you to get to vertex form, after you've FOILed and expanded that, you'd then have to complete the square. For the next example, I want you to actually try this on your own. So this is your chance to practice. I want you to find the equation of the quadratic function that has roots of 2 and negative 3 that passes through the point 0 and 3. So try that now, and I'll put on a little mood music for you in the background. Now that's okay if you're not done by now. I don't expect you to be done. Just keep pausing until you're done, then come back. Welcome back. Hopefully you got the following. Y equals, so hopefully you're nodding your head, you got that. That's a good start. I didn't tell you what form, so since I gave you the roots, it makes sense to use factored form. So hopefully one of your factors, you got x minus 2, nodding your head, good. X plus 3, that's probably maybe the first spot where some of you might have made a mistake. Don't forget x minus s or x minus r, so x minus negative 3, two negatives make a positive. And then the money step here, the a value. Hopefully you got negative 0.5 or negative 1/2. If you did, fantastic. If you didn't, that's okay. Hopefully you realize where your mistake was. Our next example, find the equation of the quadratic function that has a double zero at 2 and contains the point 3, 10. Your understanding of how to do this probably boils down to this. What does double zero at 2 mean? Basically, this means that it only has one zero. So if we were to make a picture of this, 1, 2. If it's a double zero, there's 1 0, and then I can go back over it and make another one. So this just means that it probably does something like that, meaning your vertex lies right at on the 2 on the x-axis. So there's a couple ways you can tackle this, but I'll stick with starting with factored form. Y equals, I'll save you from writing x minus r, x minus s. It would just be x minus 2. And the other 0 is the exact same thing. It's a double root or double 0. They're the exact same thing. From there, it's pretty easy. What we've been doing so far, there's your x, there's your y. 10 equals a 3 minus 2, 3 minus 2. Do the math. 3 minus 2 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 10 divided by 1 is just 10. Putting it all together, y equals 10, x minus 2, x minus 2. Or if you wanted to clean that up a little bit, you wanted to be fancy, show off, 10 x minus 2 squared. Now you didn't have to start out with factored form. If you realize that the vertex, right, if it's a double root and it's on the x-axis, that really is your vertex, which means, so we'll do a little or over here, you could have started like this. And you'll end up right at the exact same spot that we were before. So that is another way, and then from there, go on. That is another way you could have started. And I'll make a little note to someone. Same final answer. So you do have some choice for that example. Number 3. So now we're going to do something a little bit different, coming up with the equation from a graph. Find the equation of the function, which we see that word again, function. We're going to learn about functions next unit, but find the equation of that graph below. Well, they gave us a double 0 In other words, they gave us the vertex. So maybe just to change it up a little bit, we'll do this. Y equals, don't forget vertex form, x minus h squared plus k. And we have the vertex. The vertex is 3, 0. So y equals a x minus 3 squared plus 0. You're missing your a value, so you're going to have to sub a point in. Never, ever. So if you start with vertex form or factored form, you can't put the vertex into vertex form. You can't put the factored form or put one of the factors into factored form. So you have to pick another point. Don't try to get cute and pick like, I don't know, don't pick like that and then you're guessing, right? Like, I don't know, is that 1.4 and 2? Maybe. Pick a point that I gave you or that looks like it goes through the crosshairs. What I mean by crosshairs is if I go over here, that point looks like it goes through those crosshairs, and maybe this one. But in this case, we don't even have to because I gave you another point. That's the point that you should pick. Again, there's x, there's y. 3 goes in for x, or for y, sorry. 5 goes in for x. Don't have to keep writing the 0. Some quick math, 5 minus 3, 2. 2 squared is 4. 3 equals 4a. Divide both sides by 4. A equals 3/4. If by chance you got a negative there, you know as a quick self-check, hopefully, that parabola opens up, which means your a value should be positive. So that kind of checks out. So final equation, y equals 3/4 x minus 3 squared. Or if you like factored form better, and I don't tell you specifically what to do, you could also do that. So that wasn't too bad, hopefully, either. And then number 4. This is a fun example. I like these types of questions, and you for sure, I hope, did this type of question in grade 10 academic. Find the maximum height of the arch if the height of the arch at a horizontal distance of 4 meters from either end is 8. I gave you a picture. Sometimes it's a good idea to put an x and y axis, in fact, most of the time. And we're only talking about the archway and not kind of like the side pillars or supports. So we're going to put our y right there, and we're going to put our x right there. And as soon as you do that, you have some coordinates. Okay, right there. 0, 0. Right there. Since my archway is 20 meters wide, that's 20, 0. Okay, so that's good so far. Some other information they gave us in the question. 4 meters from either end, it tells you is 8 meters. So the height is 8 meters at 4 meters in. So if I go 4 meters in this way, so let's say that's 4, then where I hit my arch is 8. So there's a coordinate, 4, 8. Or you could go the other way. This is a choose your own adventure. So if I go 4 in, that's 16, and as I go up and across, that's also going to be 8. So there's another coordinate, 16, 8. What we want to know is what is the max height? So we know that the max always occurs at the vertex. Okay, so maybe don't forget that. You see maximum. Our end game is vertex. I know that my vertex happens halfway between my zeros. And my zeros are 0 and 20. And some simple math, what's halfway between 0 and 20? 10. So this right here is my vertex. And I know already that it has coordinates 10 something. And that something is what I'm looking for. So we know we got to find the vertex, and we got a lot of information going on there. It really just means you can pick what you want to do or what points you want to use. To be able to get our vertex, though, we need the a value. So let's start there by finding the a value. Y equals, now you can't use the vertex form because you're looking for the y coordinate of the vertex. We're going to use factored form because you have the zeros. One of my zeros is 0, right? So x minus 0. The other one is 20, x minus 20. And then you got to pick a point. You can't pick your zeros, so you can either pick 4, 8 or 16, 8. Just to keep the numbers smaller, I'm going to pick 4, 8. So I'm just going to write here sub 4, 8. And that's x, that's y. So 8 equals a, x is 4. Do the math, 4 minus 0 is 4. 4 minus 20 is negative 16. Negative 16 times 4 is negative 64. Divide both sides by negative 64. Reduce our fraction. That's negative 1/8. And I want to leave it like that. I don't want to make it. I mean, it does work out to be an okay decimal, negative 0.125. But let's challenge ourselves and keep it as a fraction. So now that I know that, we can go here. But I need to find the coordinate of my vertex. In other words, you're looking for your y coordinate. Well, I know that the y coordinate has, at the vertex, has an x of 10. So you're going to sub x equals 10 because that's the x of the vertex. So y, because that's what we're looking for, equals negative 1/8. Put 10 in. Ten minus 0 is 10. 10 minus 20 is negative 10. Negative 100 times negative 1/8 ends up being 12.5, in this case, meters. You should know that if you got a number under 8 as a self-check, that's not right because our vertex should be higher than 8 based off the coordinates. Also, we shouldn't have got a negative value if you did by chance another built-in self-check. Go back, take a look at what you did. Obviously, the height can't be underground. So what is the maximum height of the arch? Therefore, the max height is 12.5 meters. And like I said, that's a good question. It's a question I like. It forces us to do multiple steps, make a game plan, draw a picture, and you have some choice over what points you use. So that's it for your final lesson of this little kind of review unit of grade 10. There's your seat work, including your test review. Now, if you haven't noticed already, I've been posting these questions in the announcement feed on D2L. Please do the questions that are assigned on D2L. For the most part, they're the same as these. However, these go with some things that I've cut out. Some of these questions go with things I've cut out of the lessons in the course. And you might struggle. You might be like, oh, I never saw that before. And that's probably why. So, and I was too lazy to go and change these. So I'm just changing it on the announcement feed. So make sure you refer to those when you are attempting your C work out of the textbook. The last thing before signing off, again, make sure you are prepared for your test tomorrow. You will also know that, or you should see on D2L that I've changed the start time. So if you are feeling prepared, you could start as early as 11:15. So tomorrow or Friday, whenever you do this test, you can log in to the test anytime between 11:15 and 12:45. So that way you can maybe, if you're prepared, you can have a little bit of an earlier start to your weekend. Also, this accommodates, as I emailed the class earlier in the week, I have my vaccination appointment set up in the afternoon. It's during my prep time, actually. So if any of you do have any tech issues, the earlier you start, the better. The closer to 11:15, the better. That will just guarantee that I can more than likely get to your problems right away. Whereas if you start later in the day, which is perfectly okay if you're not prepared, just know that if you have any tech issues or you need my attention, I could be driving, I could be getting my vaccine, etc., etc. I still will get to you, it just might not be immediate. So that's it. Good luck on your test. Ask lots of questions if you have questions leading up to that. And then good work, everyone, on finishing your first week. I will, last thing actually, now that I think of it, I will get back to you with your test marks at some point next week. I do have 2 classes this quad, so I'm extra busy. I'm not going to be able to get things back right away, but I should be able to get you one test marked, your first test marked back to you next week, and hopefully both of them before we're back again. But I'll post those messages in Hasia as announcements to all those of you that have joined Hasia.